Thank you.
Mr. Clay, Edward
hello.
Softwater with A.N.N.
Yes. Hello. How are you, Mr. Safewater?
Softwater.
Ah?
Please, take a seat.
Okay.
Now, could you tell us how Missouri became a state and what exactly you had to do with that?
Well, I'd be glad to. Yes. If it weren't for me, there'd be a civil war between the House and the Senate, and Missouri would never become a state at all.
I hear there was a great controversy. Now, what was all this about?
Well, it all began on the 13th of February of 1819. James Talmadge, a New York Democrat, made a motion while Missouri was applying for statehood that slavery should not be allowed in the state, unless, of course, it was punishment for a crime. This is like throwing a torch into a beehive, of course.
And what did this do for him?
Well, not really much of anything. Made favor with the Quakers in the state, made his mother proud. Outside of that, nothing. Well, then Jesse Thomas of Illinois proposed that there be a 36° 30, where slavery would not be allowed to the north. Oh, I have the map for this.
Great, if you could show it to us, please.
Yes, absolutely. This will make better sense to everyone. The 36° 30 is this line you see in red that runs right across the southern part of Missouri. Everything to the south would be allowed to have slavery. Everything to the north, slave-free, including this line, all this land that the northerners want so badly.
I see. So, then did this end all the arguments?
Well, no, not really, because then when Missouri was forming their constitution, they put in an amendment to it that no free Negroes could come to the state of Missouri, and it started the controversy all over again, because again, it violated the No Privileges Clause. It's quite frustrating.
I see.
More so than this throbble here.
I bet.
Robbins?
Now, the North gets
Excuse
all
me.
the land north of the 3630 mark. Isn't that a good deal?
Well, you see, from what we learned from the Lewis and Clark expedition notes, is that this is pretty much just worthless land, full of ill-tempered Indians, hundreds of miles with no good drinking water, mountains that are impassable.
Mr. Clay, I thought you were a nice man, and then you go and give the Northerners bad real estate just because so you can have slaves in Missouri? I don't know what to say.
See
Miss
here.
Broddles, why don't you say it in the kitchen?
Listen, woman, this is not my idea. This is Jesse Thomas of Illinois. And at the same time, these Northerners, I don't know why these Northerners want this worthless land. Doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm sorry. You'll have to forgive her. So, is this the end of the story then?
Well, no, not really. I mean, after that, we had, Missouri formed a statehood constitution, but in their constitution, they contradicted the United States Constitution. So we had to then readmit this to Mr. Monroe, President Monroe, and that's what started the Missouri Compromise.
So then did you have the solution to that problem?
Yes, basically the amendment was thrown out, and then we had to actually have the Missouri Compromise transmitted to President Monroe before it would be approved.
I see, and that's what he signed today.
That is correct.
Well, you sure do deserve the name the Great Pacificator. That's how Missouri became a slave state.
Volumes 1 through 10 on the road to the abolition of slavery. Volumes 1 and 2. Introduction on the road to the abolition of slavery. Slavery explained in the words, writing, and songs of contemporary politicians, abolitionists, slaves, pro-slavery advocates, and others. Volume 3. Politics on the road to the abolition of slavery. The institution of slavery and how it was written into the U.S. Constitution. Volume 4. Heroes and Heroines on the road to the abolition of slavery. Liberated from the shackles of slavery, countless slaves made extraordinary contributions to society. Volume 5. Obstacles on the road to the abolition of slavery. Slavery culturally entrenched and protected by religious, political, and social obstacles. Volume 6. Martyrs on the road to the abolition of slavery. People black and white gave their lives in the fight for freedom from slavery. Volume 7. Kidnappers and Justice on the road to the abolition of slavery. The law protected slavery, and the scales of justice were in favor of the slave owners. Harriet Beecher Stowe, The Evil of Slavery. Stowe reveals the people and the conditions that inspired her explosive novel about slavery and life in the South. Volume 8, The Legacy of What Slavery Left Behind. War-ravaged people struggle to rebuild their society and come to terms with the repercussion of slavery after the Civil War. Volume 9, Those Dedicated Angels on the Road to the Abolition of Slavery. Recognizing the work of 12 abolitionists whose extraordinary dedication helped to free the enslaved, these are the people who fought for a higher standard of mankind. Volume 10, coming soon, summer 2013. The Beginning of Slavery. Indentured servants and the transatlantic slave trade. Colonial plantations needed labor, more orphans, loose women, convicts, and Quakers than the Old World could send as indentured servants. So the colonists looked to Africa, and the transatlantic slave trade thrived for 450 years.